I was thinking, they say that people are creatures of habit, that human beings in general are creatures of habit, and that's true. And the device that processes, that creates the habits, is the mind. And so it just, the more you do something, the more you do more of it. Like if you really like football, you watch it on TV, and oh, there's a football game, and you watch that, and you watch more football, and you even watch teams that you don't care about just because it's football, that kind of thing. And this, that's what a habit is. And what religion is, or spirituality, or skill, is creating better habits. Like if your habit is to be unmindful, well, then you practice mindfulness and make that the new habit. And then the habit of unmindfulness will wither. And the habit of mindfulness, if you keep doing it, it becomes a habit. The mind is just a clearinghouse. It's a programmable phenomena that just really reacts to your actions. So if you if your habit is angry thoughts, then if you start spending your time doing happy, loving thoughts, then the angry thoughts don't get airtime, and they kind of wither away. And the happy, loving thoughts become the habit, or the mindfulness becomes the habit. Or if you're a stingy person and you start giving, and you make and you train yourself, and you give, that'll become the habit. The mind will take that information and, oh, now we're giving, so then it starts leaning towards giving, and it'll sort of forget and lose its tendency to be stingy. It's really simple. We're just reprogramming the mind is just an impersonal device, and it'll do what you get it accustomed to. The more you practice mindfulness, the more mindful you are. You find yourself just being mindful, because the mind is picking up on that habit and creating a habit out of it. And the same with being kind or generous or friendly or calm, or if your habit is to get angry every time you hear something about politics, you can change that. One way is don't watch the news or whatever, wherever you're getting that, and then you cut off the input so that there isn't more of that going in there all the time. And then you just don't care about politics. I mean, you vote and everything, but it's not you're not emotionally committed to hate that politician and love that other politician and all that kind of stuff. You can just reprogram. It's wonderful. And that's how ordinary people become fully enlightened saints is they change their mind. They reprogram the mind. And if you're like doing a lot of meditation and you get stream entry or more, well, that really, those are major reprogramming tools. I mean, that's what, attainment of Magapala or stream entry or Sakadagami or something. That experience really reprograms your mind. You're different as a result of it. And so your input to your mind is very different than before. And so then that is like a boost to your reprogramming. Anyway, I have this idea.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Isn't the mind reprogramming itself?
Yes.
Okay.
All the time. That's how bad habits get formed.
And good ones.
And good ones. Yeah. Yeah, it's this dynamic.
I mean, I'm saying is you're not changing your mind. Your mind is changing itself.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't change your mind. Matt says to me, "Oh, I had an idea." And I go, "Oh, gee, what a shock." You had an idea. I'll be darned. Who would have ever thought? That's all we ever have is ideas, and they're changing all the time, But he had one that he liked and grabbed onto is what he's, one of the ideas that of the millions that are going through caught my fancy. I like it. And I want to perpetuate it and pursue it and make it come true, Yeah. Or like Jim said, I changed my mind. It's like, wow. I mean, the mind is changing. That's all it does is change, constantly. I mean, we know that from practicing mindfulness. It's like you're sitting there, rising, falling, hearing, thinking, remembering, itching, scratching. I mean, the mind is changing all the time. That's the point of Vipassana meditation, is that's how you learn about impermanence. You see, you observe over and over and over again change. How things come and go, 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 all the time. Impermanence. That's the insight that emerges from seeing things changing all the time. And it's just the nature of the mind. But an unhappy person or an angry person or an obsessive person or, whatever, anybody can change that. You just change them. You just start putting different information into the mind. And like Jim says, it's adapting all the time, it's processing. And it'll go, oh, we're doing that now. Oh, but I want to be angry. Well, then it tries to be angry, but you go, no, I'm not going to be angry now. And then, it fails. And then we're happy. Oh, we're happy again. Okay, here we go. We're happy. But I want to be angry, but I can't seem to fit it in the mind. There's too much happiness in the way for my anger to find find footing, to get a major event going. Anyway, if you're doing loving kindness and mindfulness and those things. So, I mean, really, the Dharma, the Buddha's teaching is really just a very simple science. It's okay, this is how the mind works. So if you do this, you can make it better. Do these things. They work. It'll take some time maybe, and you have to apply yourself to it. But it's taken a lot of time, and you've applied yourself to your hatreds and desires and prejudices and whatever, whatever your mind does, did or does normally. It took a lot of time and to get at that, to make it into what it is or was. And it can take time to unmake it, but you can do it.
And it won't want to be.
The old.
It won't want to change.
No.
Because it won't think it's itself anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Venerable Jnanarama, really developed monk in Sri Lanka, in his book, 7 Stages of Purification and Insight Knowledges. And he makes the point. He said, there are enemies within your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind isn't your best friend. It has an agenda of its own. It has defilements that it wants to exercise. So that's why, your mind will work against, you're trying to be good, but you find yourself getting angry or over nothing or something. It's the unskillful tendencies of the mind, but it's the defilements wanting to express themselves because they've been accustomed to doing that. They've done it for years, before you started being a better person and being mindful and doing loving kindness and all that. When your mind was just running wild, it got to do what it wanted. And like Jim says, it frequently it doesn't like being programmed or reshaped in a different, I don't get to get angry anymore. I like getting angry. I've been getting angry for a long time, and now I'm not gonna. It doesn't like that. It wants to continue on its habit, on the patterns that it's become habituated to. So you have to change those habit patterns. That's all that's almost entirely what we're trying to do, is change the habit patterns of the mind. But it's a very mechanical process. It's not, the mind isn't a person. It's just a behavioral phenomena. And it can be, like Jim said, it may resist, but it can be, you just persist and keep putting in what you want, and it's forced to assimilate that, and then it becomes, those are the new habits, because you've made it accepts it eventually, because it doesn't really decide. It's just a victim of circumstances, of conditionality. You've changed its conditionality. So it becomes what the new information makes it into. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. That's,
David,
yes.
so you're talking a lot about changing and putting new information in, creating better habits, or
Uh-huh.
but I mean, isn't it true that just being aware and noting, a lot of those things will change without,
Yeah.
and I guess why? Because we see how unpleasant we feel being angry, or I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff, all you have to do is be aware of it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And it kind of purifies itself.
Yes. That's the power of the tools of mindfulness and loving kindness and that stuff. Is it just well, especially mindfulness and insight, is you see, first of all, whatever it is you don't like is really impermanent. You know, it's not this big real thing that you may have thought it was. It's just these little blips that if you're mindful of them, they just come and go and they're gone. You know, want to get angry, gone. Hearing, thinking, whatever, you know, it's just these little impulses. And but you see, oh, that's painful, or you know, that it's impermanent, it doesn't even matter, it's painful. And then you don't incline towards it so much. It's like, you know, if you put your hand on a hot stove and burn your hand, you probably won't do it again. You know, you go, oh, that's painful, I won't do that again, you know. And you know, the dukkha, suffering, one reason people do things is because they think their happiness. You know, people at a political rally that are shouting all these vulgar things and, you know, getting all worked up and everything, they think they think they're happy doing that. They think that's pleasant, or they wouldn't do it. They like it, but they don't realize it's suffering. You know, that isn't happiness. Shouting and demonstrating and pounding and hating and all that, that's not happiness. Doesn't feel good. They think it does. I mean, that's why you know, human people go through life just, they're perceiving impermanence as permanence. They're perceiving suffering as happiness, and none of it's even theirs. So they're perceiving not self as, oh, that's mine, I'm me, I'm at this rally, I got my t-shirt and my hat on, that's me, you know. No, it isn't. Sorry. Well, if you learn, you know, it's just not seeing the truth. And if you start directing your mind towards learning the truth and you start seeing, you go, oh, that, yeah, that's not happy. That's not good. That doesn't feel good. And then your desire level for that falls off, which is the fuel that powers it, kind of, is desire. You know, you want to do that because you think it's happiness. Well, if you find out it isn't happiness, and then you really don't want to, the taking, the withdrawing, the wanting is like turning off the fuel to the engine. You know, it's just not getting what it needs to rage, to run, to, you know, all that. It's a really simple process. It's amazing. It's what the mind works itself upon, that it inclines towards. The more you think about something, the more your mind inclines towards that. The more you think about revenge or whatever. And that comes back to the habit patterns of the mind. But the more you do it, the more the mind inclines towards doing it.
I noticed that if we read the Dharma and hear the Dharma all the times, then the mind inclined to that wholesomeness and wants to practice more, and it's more like you have right effort and you don't have to push too much. It's just natural. But we have to listen, or we have to see in order to make it easier.
Yeah, spend more time doing that.
Yeah, I think that helps me.
Yeah, I think you're right. I know you're right.
Yes.
That's why monks give sermons at the temple every night or every day or whatever, and stuff like that. Is then you're hearing those good, uplifting, inspirational, wholesome thoughts and concepts. And you're absolutely right, Tusita. It helps you. And you're spending your time that way rather than, I don't know, on YouTube or the news or something like that. Yeah, that's, I remember in Sri Lanka, like there's temple, and I'm sure this is true in Vietnam also, and Thailand and Burma and really solid Buddhist countries. There's temples everywhere. I mean, almost anybody who lives there, there's a temple within walking distance. And it's very common that a family, the mother and the father and the two little children or something, after dinner, they walk down the street to the neighborhood temple and they light some coconut lamps or some incense, or they take some flowers out of their yard and offer them. And then the monks are kind of hanging around and they talk to a monk, he encourages them to do good or be good or, that kind of stuff. Or, it's part of their life, and the children grow up that way. It's part of their life, and that's good. That's a real benefit that people in Asia have, is they've got it's part of their habit. It's ingrained in their habit patterns, going to the temple, talking to the monks, making offerings, that kind of stuff. That's really good. And that's why they do so well at the meditation center and like that also. I mean, I've seen them, they come, I've seen them at my teacher center, local people, and that might be a school teacher or something like that, and they have a vacation and they go to the meditation center and they just do it. And it's not, they just do it and they do really well. They're not conflicted about whether I should do this or I should do that or something like that. They just follow the instructions. They have self-discipline and they do what the instructions are. And wow, they do really well. But they have kind of a built-in faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. You know, they don't have to be convinced. You know, Westerners, you know, encounter Buddhism in a book or something. They don't have, and it's brand new, you know, and they don't have any, you know, if they're going to build something, it'll take quite a, you know, they have to gain respect for what the Buddha was and what he said. And wow, this is a really amazing man. You know, I'm really impressed, and all that. You know, they have to build faith in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha as an adult, usually, or, you know, pretty much. And it's not that easy to do. You know. Anyway, oops, time's up.
I want to ask you about Venerable Pema series talk. Has that been, are you going to post that on your mindfulness? Okay.
They're on my website.
Oh, okay.
Do you know my website?
Mm-hmm.
Just go and hit the YouTube, and there's two of them, and they're both there.